It all ends here, everyone. It's Deep Dive Zone, a Sonic review series for fans of all shapes and sizes. I'm your host, Devin, joined as always by my colleagues Lauren and Bruce, and it all ends here. Specifically, it all being Sonic the Comic, not this show.
I don't think that needed to be explained.
I don't know, you never know. Never underestimate the ignorance of YouTube commenters.
Fair enough.
We are clearing out the end to the original run of Sonic the Comic, Fleetway Sonic, from the 90s today.
Yeah.
And, well, that covers about 6 stories, but, we're not going to waste any time. We're going to go ahead and start, because last time, we ended off on a bit of a cliffhanger. Angel Island had fallen into the ocean, Chaos was still running rampant, and the Chaos Emeralds were mostly missing, except maybe the one Chaos himself has.
Right.
But Sonic finally came back from whatever he was doing.
Being depressed.
I guess.
Yeah, basically.
But we're starting here today with Out of Time, Kitching and Elson. While investigating the effects of his new green eyes, Sonic finds himself whisked away to the distant past.
Ooh. Gee, I wonder where.
Well, even that description is giving it too much credit. We do start with Sonic having his new green eyes scanned by Lewis, but I don't get any more information about why they're like that or what that means.
Sonic doesn't really care. He thinks they're cool.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, same. I don't really give a shit why they're green. I just think they look neat.
My eyes are already green, and I gotta tell you, it's not that cool.
You're used to green eyes.
Maybe if you guys got some context, it would be a whole new world.
Yeah.
But apparently, before it happened, Sonic was like, I saw some kind of purple glow, whatever that means.
Mm.
Yeah, but before we get to see that actually do anything, apparently Knuckles can just, like, track the Chaos Emeralds with, like, a telescope or something. I don't
He's
know.
got some kind of scanner that... Yeah, so why did you make such a big deal about this, man?
That's a good question.
I guess in this case, it's because Eggman is blocking it.
Yep. For what it's worth, the narration box reveals that Robotnik is in the dark dimension. That's what the place is called.
Wherever that is.
Well, yeah, whatever that means.
Sonic starts seeing the purple again, and it gets more and more clear until, hey, it's Tikal.
Yeah, it was only a matter of time.
Yeah.
If they were going to adapt basically any of SA1, they kind of had to do this.
Yeah.
It's a nice way of explaining why Tikal could contact Sonic through the Chaos infection. I like it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes, indeed. She shoots Sonic with a magic staff, I guess? Also, only he can see her, but...
I was about to say, mind you, no one else can see his Tikal.
Nope.
Yeah.
Only Sonic can see her, and they both vanish into a puff of purple smoke, which maybe Knuckles and Lois can see. But
I would assume they can see the smoke.
But they appear in front of a herd of dinosaurs being hunted by echidnas. Yeah, I remember that little plot detail.
These next few comics are going to do a great job of tying a whole ton of details across the comics together, and I appreciate it a lot.
Yeah, I can definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, so we've teleported right into danger. Nice job, Tikal.
Look, she's doing her best.
She's never sent someone from the future into the past before.
True.
Apparently not. Well, Sonic was the right man for the job because he grabs her and jumps out of the way of the stampede very easily.
Yeah.
Danger is my middle name. That's
Really? I
not
thought it was
Sonic voice. I
love.
don't know what the hell that was.
Oh, why? I did a Patrick voice.
So anyway, they jump out of the way of the herd, and, well, we get to hear that this is the distant past for a minute, and then Knuckles shouts to Call that she shouldn't be so far from home and be near a hedgehog. What do you mean, Knuckles? What?
Yeah, they just drop that and don't explain it. Spoiler at all, period.
They kind of imply.
They imply, but I don't like
yeah.
that implication is dumb, and I choose not to believe it.
This red echidna with green highlights and white wraps on his dreads is apparently Knuckles, despite this being hundreds of years in the past.
Yeah.
At the time, I assumed, it's just like an ancestor that looks.
That's what I was figuring, yeah.
Yes, but exactly how this is the actual Knuckles that we know in the present is not particularly expounded upon.
Now, Sonic will later assume that he was put in some sort of cryogenic sleep.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
and
mean,
I
that's
don't
not
know
much
if that's
of
the
a
official
spoiler.
explanation.
Being
Actually,
that they don't explain it beyond that, I have to imagine it is.
this is something that I assume would have been fully contextualized had the comic not been canceled.
Right. I think that's a safe assumption.
My theory is that all the echidnas got wiped out somehow, and Knuckles was like able to escape that fate by being frozen in a box, and that like led to memory loss.
I'll tell you, before this
Yeah.
episode, I ended up reading some of Sonic the Comic online, and that
Mhm.
comic's explanation was that the current Guardian of the Emeralds is basically just given infinite extra lives, so every time they die, they live a whole life again. Which I kind of liked better,
Interesting.
because it meant that he doesn't get to retain
Okay.
his memories.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'll check and
Uh,
see after this if Kitching
I
ever
mean, it
said
makes
anything like
sense.
that they were going
Okay.
off of, but I don't think it is.
Excuse me. Makes sense is the wrong way to put it. I don't hate that explanation.
It's interesting, is what it is.
I don't
Yeah.
like it because then we're getting into like Archie's Guardians are overpowered territory.
Ooh, fair enough.
Yeah, it was only for the current Guardian in that, though, and it relied on being possessed by the God of Death, so...
Okay, you're making me really want to read some of the comic online between this and seeing Plunder being in it.
I mean, always an
Anywho.
option.
Let's not waste any more time. All these echidnas are surprised by the fact that Sonic can talk.
We've established that in basically every continuity, the echidnas in some way are the first civilization to develop on whatever planet. So I'm not.
Sort of. It was the case in Archie. I don't think it was established here.
I kind of got the impression that that was the case here as well.
Well, they
They
certainly
are
made it sound
advanced for their time, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's it. They're not like they're not like Archie sci-fi advanced, but they're clearly a more advanced civilization than basically anyone else.
Yeah. But whatever's going on here, these echidnas don't have time because they're being interrupted by the intruders making a play. Because the echidnas were always at war, after all.
Right.
But who could have expected that the people they were at war with in this continuity was the Dracon?
I love this. Not
That's
only
cool.
are we going to finally get an explanation on their relationship,
Oh yeah.
but also they're just being so creative with the adventure plotline. Like, okay, yeah, the echidnas are at war, but let's make them at war with the Dracons instead of just nameless echidna tribe. That's much better.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's definitely
Or
better.
random cat people.
That
Well.
too. That too.
Yeah, I think that it's a great integration of the established lore, which, obviously was made
Yeah.
up long before Adventure came out. That's the end of that, all these stories connect together in such a way that you may not even notice it's a different story when it changes.
That was happening to me.
Kind of like what we did with the Shanazar plotline.
Yeah, so Prisoner of War, Kitching and Nelson. Sonic helps the echidnas take a Dracon prosecutor hostage and learns of their ongoing conflict. So yeah, everybody attacks this guy because they're at war with them.
Of course.
Knuckles leads the charge and struggles against it, only for Sonic to get little Lancy. He's got to jump in himself.
Of course.
Especially since Sonic says there's no point in attacking his body, which implies he's the only one who knows that they're fish-piling mech suits.
Oh, he definitely
yeah.
is. This sequence is wild. It's one of those times of Sonic the comic, it goes a direction I didn't expect, because Sonic is like, I don't know, you to attack a prosecutor, you have to go for the head. And everyone else thinks he's like a psycho. And he's like twisting the head of the robot body
Twist
around,
the
and I
head
think
around
he's just
and then
twisted his head around. They're like,
Basically
it's
tears it
disgusting.
off. I'd actually forgotten that they were just fish inside of a mech suit, so I thought Sonic went
You
for
were
like a
with the
Mortal
echidnas.
Kombat fatality.
Yeah, oh my god, they just snapped his head.
Then I remembered, oh right. Oh yeah, that's okay.
It reminds me of Bruce. Do you remember Videl versus Spopovich in the Boo Saga? How like one of the first
Oh,
things
God.
she does is kick him so hard that his neck is broken, and it's like if he
Yeah.
weren't possessed by Bavity, he would be dead immediately.
Yeah.
But indeed, neither this guy nor the big Russian man are actually dead. Russia doesn't exist in Dragon Ball. Anyway, Sonic does indeed show that they are actually fish in the helmet, and the entire body is just a robot. So just bring me a bucket of water, he says.
Yep.
And we do get a chance to see where the villains have been operating from. It is a secret fortress that Grimer says Robotnik came to get away from him.
So the thing is, it says it's actually near Metropolis. So this isn't where they've been operating from. They moved here because Metropolis obviously
Right.
isn't in the dark dimension, which makes me wonder what was the point of the whole being in another dimension if they're just going to put them here. And having like a secret fortress that was from the days that they ruled, and being a backup place. I like that idea better than just random dimension.
Yeah.
I guess the implication would be if they were in the same dimension as everybody else, it would be easier to track them.
Oh,
Fair.
yeah, I guess.
Because they did mention
Yeah, I guess.
scanning the rubble of
They did,
wherever
yeah.
game over took place for their bodies, and they didn't find it.
It's true.
Anywho, the Master Emerald crashes down right next to the castle. Very convenient for the villains.
It's not convenient. Robotnik has a chaos resonator, he calls it, that it can just attract chaos emeralds, which
Okay,
is
well, that part's convenient.
amazing. Okay,
Man,
yeah, that is very
Why
convenient.
didn't you use that previously, bud?
Yep.
I assume on Angel Island they're like locked in place.
Fair
is
enough,
true,
but you've
yeah.
been off in Angel Island earlier on that he could have used it then.
Oh, he easily could have built it later if he hadn't like come in contact with the Chaos Emeralds, which I don't think he had for a while
Chaos
until he
Emeralds
met
have
up with
been
Knuckles.
in the Angel Island Master Emerald Chamber for most of the comic, is the thing.
Well, admittedly, the Chaos Emeralds have played a much more minor role in this overarching story than basically any other Sonic story we've seen.
Yeah, which is part
Which
of
I
the
have
reason
to
that
give some praise, actually.
this comic doesn't have nearly so much contrived bullshit as something like Archie.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm going to point out here that he says, I have 4 Chaos Emeralds, so the Chaos creature must absorb the other 3. We'll see if that's true later.
That's an interesting assumption there, Robotnik. We'll see how it plays out.
Yeah. So, back at Mystic Ruins of the Past, except I guess it's not a ruin, the Echidnas have the Prosecutor captive in this little pond, and Sonic and Knuckles share some mutual confusion about how Knuckles exists here and thousands of years later at the same time. And yeah, Sonic speculates some kind of stasis, maybe it's
Right.
demonic possession. Ultimately, the answer is, we don't get to find out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Pachacomic wants to see Sonic, and they spell his name with an O in this version.
Yeah, I'm not sure
yeah.
if that was intentional or a mistake, because they misspelled characters' names before in these comics.
They consistently spell it with an O in this comic, which is very strange because it feels like they tried to spell Pachacomic phonetically, but nobody ever says his name out loud in Sonic Adventure. But he shows him that they've got the Chaos Emeralds, and he says the Echidnas stole them from the Dracon 2 days ago.
All right. So there's and we now have a connection for the Chaos Emeralds in the Dracon.
Yes.
The
also
Dracon
means-
already said that the emeralds were stolen from them by the Echidnas back when they first got to Angel Island.
But importantly, they're the ones who
Right.
brought them here, which means we are 3
Right.
for 3 on Sonic continuities, making the Chaos Emeralds come from space somehow.
It's true, we are.
It kind of makes sense, I guess.
I mean, yeah, there's nothing that doesn't make sense about it.
I mean, given that most Sonic planets are supposed to be some version of Earth, this would certainly be
Sure.
something to introduce the alternate history part of it. Yeah. But this leads into the origin of chaos, Kitching and Nelson, where Sonic learns the source of the Echidna and Dracon conflict, and learns the source of chaos against his will.
Right.
So we see a lot of Dracon Empire. I almost call them Legionnaires. That's not right. They're marching on the Echidnas. They're attacking.
Oh no.
Sonic's first reaction to seeing the Chaos Emeralds is being like, wow, you guys stole these? You know there's going to cause a lot of trouble in the future.
Yeah, which is pretty good. And Pachacomic also explains why they brought Sonic here. Because months ago, the whole reason that this happened, months ago, the Dracon attacked to steal from the Echidna's normal emerald mines, and created the Chaos Emeralds to contain the chaos energy that the Dracon invented. So it's not quite the same.
I
Yeah.
really like this.
I do like the idea of the Chaos Emeralds being something artificially made.
Well,
Yeah, it makes sense, that part. Also, giving them credit, again, to calling back to the concept of rebuilding Chaos Emeralds, because they're just regular emeralds that you mine, and they're just containers of energy, because Knuckles did that at one point with the Master Emerald. And my last point is, I like how this sort of complicates things a little bit in terms of, like, who's to blame. Definitely the Bracons are still more to blame, but
Oh, of course. But yeah.
the fact that the Echidnas are stealing something that was partially their invention, but then it also incorporates materials from them as well. It's like, okay, so it's a bit of a mess here. I can see why this turned into a war.
it's a little bit nuanced,
Sure, yeah.
yeah. They stole their emeralds back, but that had the Dracon's power inside them, but that the Dracon did not get consent to make.
Right.
And they're keeping them in this case because they don't want the Dracon to have all of that chaos power, which is probably the right call.
No,
Yeah.
it is, yeah.
Also, I guess Pachacomic's bloodline are seers, so they had a vision of Sonic as a hero who fought the Dracon in the future, so that's why they brought him back in time.
Yep.
Mm.
Now, the captive prosecutor says that Sonic will never be able to do that shit, and oh look, his buddies are busting through the wall right now.
We're on schedule here. Gotta go full battle mode.
Well, yeah,
Yep.
we gotta keep the pace up.
Complete with Echidnas piloting Guardian robots.
Yeah, so clearly the Echidnas aren't like full tribal like the way most people think of tribal.
It is
They're,
very funny to see them piloting robots while they still wear like grass skirts and like leaves on them.
and are fighting with spears.
Yeah.
So
It's
I mean,
interesting.
Pachacomic's spear has like buttons on it, so like
Yeah.
there might be a little more to that. And fashion sense, it could just be traditional.
True. I
Oh,
guess
yeah,
there's
I'm
nothing
not-
showing that they aren't a lot more technologically advanced than they show to them.
This is not like a
they
real
show
criticism.
outwardly.
Uh,
No. Yeah, it's definitely not a criticism. It's just something interesting to point out.
it's the
It's
same as
supposed
how,
to be a
like,
plot twist. I mean, Sonic is surprised.
Sure.
So.
Yeah. It's the same as how like Locke moves to the traditional Echidna garb, even though he's still from Echidnopolis.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, fair, yeah.
Also because his old design sucked. Anyway, so one dude shoots at Sonic with a laser, but it misses and hits the green emerald, which starts like reacting with power.
Oops.
Uh-oh.
Yep, and it destroys the fish tank, releasing that prosecutor fish, and the emeralds, and the water, all congealing around him.
Before that does
Interesting.
something, I have to point out this little moment that characterizes the Dracons as a group, because the lone one is like, you can't just leave me here, help me. And the other one is just like, it's an honor to die for the Dracon Empire. Farewell.
Farewell, comrade. Yeah,
know that
that's,
you are dying in a demonstration of our great nation's power.
It's Klingon mentality.
But, yes indeed, the emerald power and the water all congeal around this one guy, and forms the beast that we now know as Chaos.
Interesting.
My
I didn't.
suspicions were correct.
Yeah, I didn't actually notice his resemblance to the Dracon until one of you pointed it out last week.
Yep. Which I cut out of that episode because I wanted to keep it a spoiler for the fans.
Fair
Yeah,
enough.
that's fine. It's a
That's
subtle
fair.
little hint, but it's great. I love this. Again, tying things together.
Oh yeah, no, tying it together, using aspects of the games and tying that into its own lore, that's neat.
Oh, it's cool as shit.
Yeah.
So this leads into War of the Worlds, Kitching and Elson. The clamor rises in the past and future alike as Chaos attacks the Echidnas and the Robotnik, with Sonic hopping between time periods. So yeah, we just accidentally created Chaos.
Hell yeah.
Knuckles leads a charge against the rest of the Dracon, but Tikal realizes, shit, this is kind of my fault, isn't it? And I want to note that Sonic says, how can I tell her that the only echidnas that still exist in my time are Knuckles and some creep called Zachary? And yeah, that kind of brings up a problem, doesn't it?
What?
Well, because whatever happened to Knuckles, Sonic is wrong here because Zachary exists, for one thing, so there has to be some
Right.
reason that another echidna can exist. And for another, Zachary was trying to enact revenge on the other echidnas, and was talking about them being, like, out among the stars, so why does Sonic say that
Yeah.
they're the only two that exist in his time?
I guess as far as he knows, those
He's
are the
never
only two that
seen
exist.
the other ones. Knuckles just said that they're out amongst the stars. In fact, I don't even know Knuckles knows that for sure, or he just thinks it.
Yeah, but Zachary implies that they're still out there, so... I don't know. I really wish that we got to learn more. Oh, look, an explanation.
It's a shame, but we
Shame of a
instead
cancelled
go
comic.
for a really cool moment here. I always have to point out heroic Sonic moments in these comics.
Mhm.
The other times, Sonic just overcomes the fear field because reasons. But here, he's like, wait a minute. Chaos killed Johnny. Maybe now is my chance to change the future. And he, like, just wills himself to attack Chaos. It's awesome.
Yeah,
and he's,
that
like,
is
screaming
cool.
the whole way. Actually, this panel of Sonic screaming is very funny looking because of how it draws his hair. It makes his head look like a giant triangle. I guess in retrospect, they're not really used to drawing that intense an expression on him, so fair enough.
Fair, yeah.
But like with before, you know, he tries to blast through Chaos, but he just blasts into Chaos and gets stuck inside him like a jello mold.
That does seem to happen.
Which coincides with Pachacomic deciding, you know what, I gotta get rid of this thing. I'll use the Emerald energy to send Sonic home. And, well,
Yeah.
it gets rid of Sonic.
Yeah, we never actually get an explanation as to how chaos is dealt with in the past. He says like he drains it of a great deal of power, but they don't explain how it's like. I don't know. I don't even know what happens to it. It's not like sealed in the Master Emerald in this continuity, so I have no idea where it goes.
No,
It is weird, right? Because
it is sealed somewhere because either Grimer or Robotnik does mention that it had to be freed.
They unearthed it,
right?
Yeah.
And it's especially weird because we'll get a couple pages of present, but then we do get one last page of the echidnas in the past, and chaos just isn't there. So, but first of all, we get to see back at the Robotnik Fortress. The heroes are closing in their, again, flying whatever these things are. Grimer asks, "Hey, Robotnik, what are we gonna do?" And Eggman gives him this very interesting facial expression, saying, "Dude, this whole thing was your plan. You're the one who has to figure it out."
Yeah, I kind of like this version of Robotnik. He has a will to act in some manner, but not as much as before. He wants to bring everyone together for, as he calls it, a grand finale, but he's just gonna watch.
I like it a lot because he's not without agency, but you can tell that he's still affected by everything that we've seen up to this point, especially Game Over and all that.
Yeah.
Which is impressive considering, Stringer and Kitching tended to do their own things, but they had a lot of synchronicity for these two arcs. They don't feel disconnected.
True.
But he is bummed that Sonic isn't here to theoretically die with everybody else.
Oh yeah, of course. That never changes. His sort of his frenemy relationship with Sonic, as you call it.
Yeah.
He's got to see him die before him.
Course.
For some reason, he just has all 6 emeralds now, so I guess he just found the other 2, and his comment earlier was wrong.
Yeah.
But
hey, right on cue, Sonic appears from the past. Inside Chaos.
Inside Chaos.
Hilarious.
And also, Chaos is here. He just came here.
Well, since the emeralds, I'm sure.
Yeah, he wants his emeralds.
Yeah, it's just I didn't mention him showing up before Sonic did.
True.
There.
And back in the past, we see the echidnas preparing for more war with the Dracons, and Chaos just isn't here.
Yeah, which is interesting.
I also like that he says Knuckles will understand the future in time. Knuckles will not understand the future in time.
I mean, he might have, but we won't see it.
Yep.
Sure, yeah.
But this is all going to come to a head here in perfect chaos. Kitching Adelson. Ebony the Witch and Supersonic make their entrance on Robotnik's fortress as Chaos attains his perfect form. So suddenly these characters are part of the story.
Wow, Supersonic looks terrible.
Yeah, we're gonna learn more.
We'll learn why.
Going on with that, but he's like really.
He's all wrinkly
here.
It's scraggly. That's a better way to describe it.
This is funny though, because I can see the writers now being like, okay, or adapting adventure, that means Supersonic versus Perfect. Wait a minute, Supersonic's a separate character. Quick, come up with an excuse.
Shit, he needs to be here.
Yes, indeed. But Ebony says that Chaos Energy is the only thing that can save Supersonic, because yes, he does look terrible. He's dying, ?
I think she does say he's dying.
I mean, he's in bad shape, we can see that, and if this is the only thing that can save him, there's only so many, explanations you can assume.
Also, wow, Perfect Chaos is looking a little octopusy.
Yes, indeed.
I'm
gonna overlook that terminology, but yes, indeed, all of the emeralds are magnetized to Chaos due to Robotnik's machine.
Admittedly, I didn't think about it before I said it.
The octopus-esque design. I really like it.
I like
being
that
creative again.
Well, Perfect already has the tentacles, so
right, yeah.
It's not that far of a jump to just go, fuck it, let's go full octopus.
Yes, indeed. I also like Grimer being like, "Stop this, Doctor, please!" And he's like,
no.
Yeah.
True.
But so yes, it's Octopus Chaos, complete with suction cups. I think that's what makes it look more octopus than just having tentacles.
Sure, yeah.
The shape is a bit different, but yeah.
It doesn't have.
The head is kind of. Yeah, the head is kind of cephalopodish.
But apparently he has power over matter itself because he makes the fortress grow tentacles as well.
Yeah, so it seems like everyone except Supersonic, when they get the Chaos Emeralds, they just get like the power of manipulating reality in certain ways. I don't get it.
Supersonic just gets laser eyes.
Yeah. But Sonic takes a shot at him, pushing through the fear aura yet again, because think that even like at this point that just doesn't matter to the story other than not letting Knuckles attack here.
Right.
Yeah, basically.
But Sonic manages to pull out a Chaos Emerald from this.
Interesting.
Which
I
does
don't
not
remember if that even matters.
It doesn't really seem to.
In Sonic Adventure, Chaos drains the emeralds, becomes perfect chaos, and then just spits them out.
Yeah.
Which is how we managed to get Super Sonic in that game. In this, I have no idea whether that matters.
It doesn't seem to, because
back or anything.
I think it seems like it's supposed to be implying that he doesn't need the emeralds anymore.
Yeah. And case in point, yes, he does get angry and attacks the others before they can take any more emeralds out of him. Grimer again is like, Robotnik, what can you do? And he's like, I'm not fucking doing anything, man. I made that very clear.
Yeah. He's here for the destruction. He doesn't want to stop
fun, you know?
Honestly, he does seem like he's having fun.
Chaos isn't even attacking him, so why bother?
It's fair, yeah.
Yeah, it was really funny actually earlier when I forgot to mention when the fortress gets transformed, Robotnik's reaction is great where he's just like, oh, it was due for a cleanup anyway.
Yeah. And I think that if we sort of planted the seeds of doubt in Grimer last story rather than just having him fully turn and ask the heroes for help, I think this would come as a better sort of head because this is finally shaking Grimer's faith in him.
Right.
Yeah, no, if this would work a lot better if you hadn't had his turn in the game over plotline.
Yeah, like we said, I think that it just should have been a more gradual build-up, but I do like Grimer saying, you're mad, and he's like, so what?
It's like he wasn't already mad.
Yep. So, Super Sonic and Ebony finally enter, and, you know, Super Sonic has been separate from Sonic and not a threat for basically the entire second half of the series, and only right now at the end does Sonic finally learn what happened to his other self.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. And he's got the right idea, of course.
Yeah.
Because he's like, no, we can't bring Super Sonic here. We can't let him do anything. He's just gonna go crazy again. And Ebony, idiot that they are, is like, nah, it's fine.
I hate so much that Ebony's just like, nah, bro, he's good.
It's so weird. This entire plotline is so weird because they clearly want Ebony to be like a compassionate person, you know, and like she's trying to help this weird sort of mixed up dude. But Sonic,
she just ends up coming off as kind of an idiot.
It's really weird because Super Sonic is like, oh, Sonic would never accept the truth that I'm docile now. And, well, in the long run, Sonic is right.
Yeah, A, Sonic ends up being right, and B, I can't blame Sonic for not trusting it.
Yeah.
Well, like, I thought Super Sonic was the one who actually realized that getting any amount of power will drive them crazy, but they don't seem to remember that here.
Yeah.
And Super Sonic's writing has also been very inconsistent for a while.
But I guess from Ebony's perspective, you know, his Chaos Energy reserves, how those exist, I don't know, but they're nearly drained, so he's dying. And apparently they just had no idea about Chaos, so they're like, this was just us trying to recharge him with the emeralds. I don't know what the fuck this thing is.
Yeah, well, Ebony does say they were tracking, like, a big reserve of Chaos Energy, which ended up being Chaos.
Yeah.
Right.
But Sonic's like, well, I'm not letting him anywhere near that thing. And then he lets him near that thing.
Yeah. Look, these stories are not long enough for there to be any real conflict.
I guess not.
So, Super Sonic charges at Chaos. Things are going to get explosive. And if we just ended the plot line here, I would say the adventure arc was peak and there were no major problems.
Honestly, yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Super Sonic gets stuck inside Chaos, and that's the cliffhanger, but we have to end off with something. So end off with Point of No Return, the final Sonic the Comic story from the original run, Kitching and Elson. It's the end of everything. Super Sonic absorbs Chaos and brings the conflict to a close.
Yeah, so he just one-shots perfect Chaos. I got scammed out of a fight. What the heck?
Yeah, what the hell?
Yeah. Super Sonic is inside Chaos, and Sonic's, like, worried about being attacked, but everybody's like, oh, Super Sonic won't hurt you, he's my friend. Wrong.
Wrong.
Super Sonic didn't hurt them because his power was inactive. You know that's how it works. But, yeah, by Chaos, he just absorbs all of the Chaos energy into Super Sonic, And so Chaos is just a fish again. Also, what? The fish part was totally gone by this point. He just turns back into a fish?
I mean, chaos magic, whatever. I don't care. Like we had a new big monster to fight. We fought Supersonic before. We don't need to do this again.
Not really.
And important, it's like, couldn't we have had, if you wanted to resolve the Supersonic, having Ebony be right narratively would be the more interesting plot thing, to have, like, Supersonic and regular Sonic reach some kind of truce to beat Chaos, or just have him able to control the power or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, ideally, probably the two of them would work together somehow, so you can have proper Sonic also here for the helping for the finale.
Yeah, because Sonic doesn't really do anything here.
They finally become good Supersonic from the games or something.
Right.
But instead, we get this whole ass speech from Supersonic that just perfectly encapsulates how backwards his character is, because he says, "It worked, Ebony. I only exist as Chaos energy, so it was easy for me to absorb all of Chaos's powers. I remember what Sonic said about me. He thought I'd turn back into an evil demon the moment I absorbed the Chaos energy. Only you had any faith in me, Ebony. Only you trusted me. But you know what? You should have listened to Sonic!" And then he, does a big blast. So what does that mean? Why did we do this? What's the point?
Yeah, this really seems backwards to what they were doing with Supersonic.
What do you want from this character, guys?
I mean, I can explain this pretty simply. Supersonic takes delight in twisting their relationships that they have with people when they're not Supersonic. So this is just, I should say, evil Supersonic. So this is evil Supersonic just torturing them, playing with his food, so to speak. This isn't good Supersonic, but it is weird hearing evil Supersonic say that. And also, we don't see good Supersonic again, so this is the note that we're leaving him with. It's an odd conclusion to the character, but I mean that's the reason.
Kind of ass backwards for what they've been doing with Supersonic,
and it means that Supersonic is the true final boss of Sonic the Comic, which is
lame.
That's what I was saying. We've done this before multiple times, actually.
Yeah, it's underwhelming compared to. I mean, because Chaos is cool.
He even makes sure
they came up with a new design.
We even got a new
the Dracon fish and fling him down towards the water into a pond full of crocodiles.
Next to Big,
featuring this comic's sole appearance of Big the cat.
Which Big looks really out of place because he doesn't seem to fit the rest of the comic's art style.
No, it's perfect. 10 out of 10, no notes.
Oh no, I love it. But
no,
Big
this is excellent. This is how you do Big. Just show up in one frame. That's it.
The other thing that I love about Sonic the Comic Online is that they have the Dracon fish take the place of Froggy.
I figured that would be the case with Sonic.
Oh my gosh,
that makes sense. Great. But fuck, man.
You were so close.
It feels like Supersonic is taunting the readers. Oh, you really thought there would be a chaos fight? No,
you know what? It does feel like that. It feels like Supersonic personally said, "Fuck you."
This is Supersonic the comic now.
Well, let's mine what enjoyment we can still get out of this.
Yeah.
Doesn't take long to turn back to the heroes, where the first person to go after him is Tails, who punches him in the back of the head.
Love it, Tails. It's a shame you now need to die.
Yeah.
Yeah, he gets eye laser blasted. And, true to form, if we do have at least anything running through this, it's Sonic's perception of his friends through all this, because this sends him into crisis mode. He's like, no, I can't lose another!
God, we already lost the rabbit, I don't want to lose the fox now!
Yeah, luckily Tails, I guess, is just really tough now, because he just survives a blast head-on. I don't get it, but cool. I mean, go Tails.
Fucking, Chad Tails. He does say he's a lot tougher than some people think, so...
Yeah.
Chad Tails, okay.
He's had the power up over this comic.
He has. He's probably the only character that really has worked for their power in this comic.
Yeah. And he also tells Sonic to stop blaming himself for Johnny's death.
Because we have to keep reiterating that.
So then Sonic pulls himself together a little bit, and he's going to pull, all right, Supersonic, I'm the one you really want. Stop fighting him. Are you scared to face me? And then Supersonic comes back with this great retort where he's like, the only thing I'm afraid of is I might kill you too quickly.
Jesus Christ.
And he's beating the shit out of Knuckles while Sonic and Tails are having that conversation, I might add.
Fine, Knuckles can take it also.
Meanwhile, Grimer finally gets the fuck over himself. He says, Eggman was the one who drew Chaos and the Emeralds here. He's the one who created this scenario. He's not a faceless, like, non-actor in this.
Yeah.
And specifically, you created a scenario in which we all die with no exit strategy. And Robotnik's like, yeah, basically.
Robotnik is over-caring.
I wanted to see for myself how Mobius died.
That is such a good line.
Yep.
And so Grimer's had it. He's like, that's it. I've had enough. I quit.
Screw you, I quit.
Yeah, if we hadn't had the odd moment where it's like, what, Grimer just cares about himself, this makes a lot more sense, because in my interpretation of the way I think the ideal Grimer character is, he just cares about serving Robotnik. And so in this scenario, he's not mad that he's going to die. He's mad that Robotnik isn't trying to be on top.
Right, Robotnik isn't trying to be Robotnik.
Yeah, you've lost your nerve rather than you're too evil. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Right.
I like that interpretation.
I also think that it would be kind of cool if, like, there was an element of, like, feeling betrayed a little bit, and maybe that does conflict with the, you know, Robotnik abuses Grimer thing, but I think if in Game Over, instead of him just going to Sonic and Friends for help, him being, you know, having some moments, just a minor thing where he's like, I went to all that trouble to get you back from Shanazar, and now you just want to destroy this world? But not actually...
There are definitely ways you could have done it better, yeah.
Yeah, it needs to be smoother. It almost makes sense. Anywho, Sonic is being brutalized by Super. He cannot keep the power up.
Right.
So Ebony decides to intervene and casts a spell, which makes Sonic shrivel up and turn into smoke.
You killed the wrong hedgehog, dumbass.
Great.
Yeah, which... Amy's sole role in this entire part of the story is to say, your stupid spell didn't work, you've destroyed Sonic!
She does nothing else here.
And Super's like, it looks like your magic's backfired, Ebony. You made the wrong hedgehog vanish. But...
And then he starts,
Yeah, he powers down. As we remember from what feels like ages ago, Supersonic eventually just subsides. He powers back down, back into regular Sonic. Because what Ebony actually did was force them back together.
I'm gonna be honest, it's more like, from what we learned ages ago, they were once the same person.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Okay, so not only did we get scammed out of a perfect chaos fight, but Supersonic is just defeated with a
we got scammed out of a cool Supersonic fight also.
Yeah, what the heck?
What the hell?
We didn't resolve the plot line because, you know, Supersonic
we ran out of
Sonic's
pages.
dark alter ego was the status quo, and now we're just back to that.
That's true too.
They don't even show off like, oh, he can now control Supersonic or something. He just has to worry about this again.
Yeah, Sonic's just like, oh, we'll deal with it, don't worry.
Yeah. This is the most whelming ending I've ever seen.
Also, Eggman's just here. He's not defeated.
It truly is.
Yeah, no, they didn't do anything about Robotnik.
And so here's the thing with all this, right? You know, this comic, this wasn't meant to be the last arc. It did get
definitely
canceled.
shows. Yeah, it definitely shows this was not supposed to be the ending.
But it's a whelming ending even for just the adventure story, though.
Yeah, the adventure story could have gotten a better ending.
It's strange because it felt like they were trying to close off certain arcs, but the things that they left open were not satisfying.
Yeah.
So, yeah, in true STC fashion, it is far from a drawn-out conclusion.
Of course.
Tails asks, will we ever have to deal with Supersonic again? And Sonic's like, probably not, but if we do, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Okay, Sonic, whatever you say, bud.
Everybody poses dramatically with Johnny's face gently watermarking the sky.
I don't even know what is that emotion on Johnny's face.
What's going on with Ebony? She looks so out of place compared to the rest.
Ebony's just like leaning off to the side with this just like blank face.
Yep.
Honestly, most of these emotions I cannot really comprehend.
And most characters have bizarre expressions.
Yeah.
It's the most Sonic the Comic ending we could have asked for.
I suppose so.
Yeah. So, you know, just like Sad AM, they kind of had to build an ending around being canceled, and
yeah,
it's a shame because the rest of this final arc is pretty great.
Oh yeah, like I said,
yeah.
aside from the ending, everything else about this I really liked.
Oh yeah, basically everything before Supersonic Absorbing Perfect Chaos is pretty much peak.
And it's, you know, it's like, to be clear, it's like I didn't need them to permanently defeat Eggman. That's fine. You know, it's not like they got rid of him in Sonic
just show them actually like beating him again at least.
Well, the thing is, Eggman wasn't the villain here.
He wasn't.
Not really.
He didn't really.
So,
I mean,
like-
he was just there for the show.
Yeah,
I don't know.
exactly.
You could get him and throw him in jail or something. That's not really stopping him.
Yeah.
But, you know, perfect ending as it may not be, it is an ending.
It is certainly an ending.
They did end it.
They ended it as much as we'll bitch about it.
I mean, I was slightly worried that Sonic the Comic would end like abruptly in the middle of an arc, but at least it wasn't like that.
I was half expecting it to end like just before they fight.
It's not what happened to Archie
Perfect
twice.
Chaos.
Right.
So yeah, that's Sonic the Comic, everybody. But as much as we say that's the ending, it's not the only ending. What we will see next time on Deep Dive Zone is that some fans were unsatisfied with this, some fans other than us, that is, and took matters into their own hands. So join us next time for the conclusion to this saga with the Sonic the Comic Online Artificial Extended Ending, whatever the fuck you want to call it, by Nigel Kitching, and our final post-mortem on the series in general. For right now, that's where I'm going to cut this episode off. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you to my co-host for being here. If you like this video, please feel free to like, share, comment, and subscribe. If you want to contact us with comments, criticisms, suggestions, feedback, etc., you can reach us at any of the links in the link tree in the description. Hope you have a great rest of your week. Hope you have a great rest of your night. And take care.